Here's a good question for you. What makes a masterpiece? Well, if you want my opinion on it, I'd say a masterpiece is something that you spend a lot of time working on, making it as best as you can to the best of your abilities and skills, and you spend extra time going over it to see if there's anything that can be improved on or made better, which shows that you have a really great passion on what you're doing. And once you're finished, you have something that you're extremely proud of. To me, that's what a masterpiece is. Hello everyone, Mr. Daydream here. Welcome to the show. I love art museums. It's a wonderful experience. There are so many amazing things to see and discover. It almost feels like a journey through the world of art. A world I wouldn't mind getting lost in. Unless it's the modern art section, because that's where all creativity comes to die. You go from seeing something like this to this. Okay, seriously, who's responsible for this? What were they thinking? Now, just to make one thing clear, I'm not gonna say that all modern art is terrible, because there do exist some that are pretty good, but for me, most of them just feel completely underwhelming. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about modern art. The definition for art seems to have changed drastically over the years. In my opinion, the definition for art is beautiful creations done by mankind that shows pure craftsmanship and reflects on experience, history, and feelings. It allows you to see a whole new world you have never seen before, all thanks to mankind's greatest gift, imagination. Nowadays, it just means anything that hasn't been done before, no matter how simplistic and stupid it is. Here's one thing I've noticed a lot of artists do nowadays that I personally find obnoxious. It's when they just don't bother naming their art piece and just leave it as Untitled. There seems to be, I think, some novelty to this name. It seems to show that art cannot be defined by its name, but by its form. That's the main focus here. So even with that said, that still doesn't excuse you for being lazy. Like, I just don't get it. Why would you make an amazing art piece and not bother giving it a name? There's really no excuse for that. Unless if the art piece itself is incredibly abstract and you really can't think of a title. But if you can see something that makes sense, give it a freaking name, will ya? It's your creation, isn't it? That would be like if you got a child but don't bother giving it a name because you don't think it's important, or you just want to show the world how poetic you are. Hello there! What's your name? Nothing. I know that analogy may seem a bit far-fetched, but you get the idea. It just seems like a lazy excuse in order to show how deep something is. Hey, I like your art! What's it called? It doesn't have a name. Just refer it as Untitled. If you can make amazing art but can't think of a name to give it, what does that say about you? It's not just modern art. DeviantArt users also tend to do this kind of nonsense. Whenever I see someone's art that's left untitled, I don't admire it for the non-existent deeper meaning the artist is trying to convey. I just groan and roll my eyes and just think to myself, man, this guy is so full of it. Like this one. It looks really nice, but why leave it untitled? There are plenty of creative names you can give it, you lazy slacker. I know it's not that major of a deal, but it's always been a pet peeve of mine, so let's get on with the next one. This is the type of art that's definitely my least favorite. It's where artists just place whatever on the floor and that's it. There's your art piece right there. If these people were to think outside the box, They wouldn't. They would just use the box itself as the art piece. I call this type of art garbage art because not only is it extremely lazy, but it literally just looks like garbage they found near a dumpster and just placed them on the floor. Like, look at this. Does this really look like something that would take your breath away? Yeah, I feel so inspired by looking at blocks of wood on the floor. Well, what kind of genius thought of this? Heck, why don't I give it a try? I might be able to spark some hidden talent I never realized I had. Well, whatever it is, it's probably stupid, much like garbage art. Wait, I might be onto something here. I gotta try this out! There it is, there it is. I call this one, Morscht Forscht Blarscht. Yeah. Have I learned something new about myself after doing this? Well, I realize that I'm still a loser, but I already saw that coming. My biggest problem with art such as this is that it gets to the point to where you can't distinguish what's intended to be art and what's not. Like, if you were to just throw an empty bag of potato chips on the floor, it's clearly garbage, it goes without saying. But since it's on the floor in an art museum, people may unintentionally see it as a valid piece of art. There have been cases where something like that has happened. Like, there was this one guy who just placed his skateboard against a wall, and people literally mistaken it for art. The same thing happened with this other guy, where he placed a pair of glasses on the floor, and a similar reaction happened afterwards. You know, if anything can be considered art, why bother having art museums anymore? You know, I actually thought of something. They could actually make a fun game out of this. Have all the original art pieces in place, then invite other people to place random things anywhere in the museum. Visitors will then have to guess which ones of the art pieces are real and which ones are just jokes. That would probably be the hardest game ever made by mankind. Too bad art museums don't have that kind of sense of humor, but it sure would be interesting. I've had enough with garbage, alright, let's move on. I hate this one so much. We sure have come a long way when it comes to art. We've gone from making stuff like this, to this, and now this. I didn't place these in the wrong order, did I? Nope. This is the future of art. Dullness and simplicity. Who needs sheer details and depth when all you can do is draw a solid line on an empty canvas and call it a day? Yeah, no, that's not something worth praising. You should be ashamed of yourself for making such lazy dreck. Like even a child's refrigerator drawing has more substance than this. Why is this type of art so common? What idiot came along and said, "Oh my God, what innovation! We need more of this! These are the works of gods!" No, they're not! Stop with the nonsense slander and crawl back to Idiot Town. Do people just abandon their common sense in order to stay functional in their delusional world? These kinds of art are not amazing. They're not. Quit acting like they are. I look at it for a few seconds, then forget they even existed after looking away. Because there's nothing of substance to them. They're about as memorable as that bowl of bran cereal you had for breakfast. The thing I hate the most with simplistic art such as these is that despite looking unbelievably lazy, dull, and uncreative, they made it into a museum. They made it into a freaking art museum! What has the world come to? If you showed something like this during the Renaissance era, you would be hated and ridiculed for the rest of your life. And here we are today, accepting them in art museums with no second thoughts. Is this the real life, or is it just fantasy? Because the latter would actually make more sense at this point. I've already lost interest in talking about simplicity art because there's literally nothing else to say about them. Just draw straight lines and solid colors, and that's it. Just get rid of creativity in favor of producing dull, boring, forgettable material that matches your soul. That may be a bit of a harsh thing for me to say, but that's just the way I see it. I hate simplistic art and I hate the idiots who praise it. Next topic. In my DeviantArt episode, I made a small mention of a Bob Denver portrait, which I did in fact make. It's right here. It's pretty nice, isn't it? Out of all the portraits made by the other students in my 2D design class, this was the one that got the most attention. So my teacher said, "You should definitely submit it for the art gallery. People would love it." And I did. And this is where my problem with art critics come into play. While my Bob Denver portrait did make it to the art gallery, it happened on my second attempt. When I submitted it for the first time, I was pretty sure it would make it. I mean, just look at it. It looks so dandy. So I was definitely surprised and shocked when I heard the news that it didn't make it. Do the art critics bother giving me an explanation as to why it wasn't worthy enough? Of course not. If an art critic says your art is not good enough, that's all the answer you're gonna get. Make your own conclusions. Oh, okay then. Then my conclusion is that all the art critics are a bunch of idiots. Hey, I'm just making my own conclusion since you won't bother giving me yours. So a year has passed since then. I was in a painting class and I heard that the art gallery was taking submissions again. You could only submit 3 pieces in total. So I submitted 2 pieces of art that I was pretty sure had a high chance of making it, plus the Bob Denver portrait, just for memory's sake, and to my surprise, only the Bob Denver portrait made it. I was extremely happy, but I was also a bit confused as to why these other 2 pieces of art, which I thought had a higher chance of making it, didn't make it, whereas this one did. And that's when I realized, when it comes to art critics, it's all trial and error, really. You could have one art critic badmouth horribly about your art piece, but have a completely different art critic praise and admire it. So you really have to get lucky enough to get that one art critic that sees the pure beauty in your work. Otherwise, you fail. That's art for you. In conclusion, nothing seems consistent when it comes to art. It can be anything, really. Heck, there's still a ton and a half about how dumb it's gotten over the years, but I'll talk about it some other time. But if you love making art, keep making art. Don't give up just because you feel discouraged. You can do it. I believe in you. One thing's for sure, whatever art you make will definitely be far more impressive than any of this modern art garbage. So thank you very much for attending today, and I hope to see you again. And remember to keep on doing what you love to do. Farewell.